Good morning, everyone. My name is Isela Bonada, and this is the first Monday, April 4th, 2022 Power Hour call. I'm really excited to have you all on the call. Today, I'm going to be introducing one of the mentors that introduced me to the business. We all know him. He's a family man. He is very smooth in his approach, and he's very successful in helping teams, especially Javier Rodriguez's team, grow. He's very kind, always checks in with me and see how I'm doing, how's my business, etc., and gives me advice. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce mentor Anthony Bonilla, who's going to introduce our special guest.
Thank you, Isa. I really appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Hope you guys are all doing good. All right, so before we get started, we do have a special guest, someone I consider a friend of mine and a personal mentor in the solar industry. Before we even get started, I did promise that I was going to raffle one of these hats, brand new hat, Powur Solar, right out today. I'll make sure I ship it to you. But before we do that, you have to follow me on social media. You need to follow me on Instagram in order for you to win this hat. So I'll type it on here. You follow me on Instagram, Anthony Bonilla, putting it here in case you can't spell my name. Anthony Bonilla _solar. All right, follow me on Instagram so you can have a chance to win this Powur hat today. All right, so let's get started. All right, guys, so also want to give a quick shout out for the Spanish Super Saturday event that we had in Buena Park, California this past weekend. Great event. I know it's gonna keep growing, but I want to give a shout out to Luis Perez, one of the mentors on our team, David Perez, also a mentor, JC Rangel, already know him, he's a mentor. Solar Lily, another mentor on our team, Isela, for putting it together with them as well. Our DJ, Raul, did a great job with the music, and Jonathan Brunasso, you guys know he's a mentor on the team as well. So you guys all did great, and everybody else who helped in putting the event together. If I missed your name, I apologize, but thank you guys. Thank you to all the consultants and the guests who showed up. Great event. Can't wait for the next one. I know we said June 4th, Saturday event.
Saturday, June 4th. It's going to be everyone English event.
Awesome. So also don't forget that our convention, in-person convention, is July 15. It's a Friday, and 16 Saturday out in Dallas, Texas. So if you haven't got your ticket, make sure you get it. You need to get to that event. It could definitely change your life. These events are very powerful, whether they're small or big, or even Zoom trainings like today. So thank you all for even coming on to the call today. If you're driving, focus on the driving, put the volume full blast. You don't want to miss this information that's going to be given today. If you're at work, take off the headphones, put it at full blast, let your coworkers hear how they can make a six-figure income in solar with Powur. Bring your boss too, let them hear as well, right? But make sure you guys are taking notes today, because again, the information you're going to get, I'm excited for this information. Even though I've been in Powur, it's going to be 2 years next month. I'm excited to hear from this individual. I met this individual September 24th, it was a Friday, and I introduced someone to the business who's an EXP realtor, who introduced somebody else, right? So I introduced it to Dina, introduced Spencer, and Spencer connected me with this individual here, Solar Pro, right? Has been in the industry for about 6+ years, right? Very knowledgeable in the solar industry. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit intimidated taking this call with this person when I first met him. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna talk to this person. It's gonna be very difficult with his questions, right? But a very genuine person, very mellow, just wanted to know details, see if this was a right fit for him. So I connected him with JC Rangel and Jonathan Brunasso to help answer his questions. And, he's also a family guy, has a beautiful wife, originally from Maryland, right, state of Maryland, but lives in the city of Menifee, California, are very successful in the solar business, right, and also here with Powur. And the reason I wanted him to come out and do this training call for you guys today is because, we want to learn how to be successful. We want to learn the steps that successful people and mentors and solar pros have taken, right, to get where they're at. Right, so this gentleman became a mentor within Powur his first month when he started late September, and then he hit an income of 6 figures already within his first 6 months. right? So, you know, there's a reason why he's one of the top mentors and consultants with Powur. So I want to make sure you guys get all this knowledge here today. So one thing you know, and Isela, you know, you've known me for a few years already, and I feel bad because when I met with this person, you know, I told him, yeah, you know, when I met him, he was making $500 per referral, right? And I told him, you know what, you could grow and, you know, make a lot more here in Powur, and I didn't want to over exaggerate, but I feel like I lied to him, and Isela, you know me, you know, I don't like to lie, I don't lie, and I told him he can make six figures his first year, right? And it will take him about a year. I feel like I lied to him because he did it in 6 months. And I feel like I shared with him a small vision when it could have been bigger. And he's probably on his way to hopefully doubling that, right? From 100 to maybe 200. But, you know, we'll let him share that. Has over 50 plus ambassadors. I lost count on how many deals he has closed with Powur his last 6 months. At first, it started with, I got a bill, I got a site survey, I got a contract signed, and now it's like I have an install every week, maybe two every other week, and it's crazy. So without, you know, I'm gonna take it all, you know, off of me. You know, you don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from this gentleman, and also I'm excited for him because he's expecting his baby girl to be born in a few months. So, you know, congratulations, Mr. Jordan Shaw. I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate that intro. So thanks everybody for jumping on. You know, I just wanted to just say that this has been definitely a whirlwind of a 6 months with Powur. When I first started looking at Powur, it literally was practically by accident. I had seen Spencer actually post his link. If you guys know Spencer Frazier, he had posted his Powur link a couple times within a month on some Facebook group that was like, you know, one of the Facebook pages. And what stirred me was like, I was looking for new partnerships to basically grow outside of just the state. I had established some good partnerships just with some local companies, some buddies, you know, whatever, right? I still hold on to those relationships today. But I really needed just to expand beyond that, because that's what I do. Like, I have people I know in Texas, I got people I know in Florida, I got people that obviously I know in Maryland. Like, I needed something that was just kind of more national in its reach, as well as in NorCal and things like that. Like, I needed to be able to help my client base. And so, I mean, honestly, when I first was talking to Anthony and he introduced me to JC and Jonathan Bernasso, I just was like, we just kind of just jumped on a call and we were just like talking back and forth and just having a very candid conversation. And it was funny because JC was actually more silent on that call than I've ever known him, because he was just listening. You know, it was just in that zone of just listening, understanding exactly who I was, and just, I guess, kind of the interaction with me and Jonathan and all that. And honestly, it just has been a heck of a whirlwind. Like, I'm just so glad I made that jump over, because Powur has become my primary focus from a partnership perspective, even in my own backyard, not just nationally. And it's been one of the best blessings that I've ever had. And my wife will tell you, she's like, you just seem like you're happier. And I'm like, I really am. I really, truly am. And you know what? It's not necessarily about the money. To me, it's about making sure my clients have a good, excellent experience. And you know what? If I can get paid a little bit more to do the exact same thing I was doing, and I can do it better, that makes me happy. And so, as Anthony said, I started actually in Maryland about 9 years ago. We actually had just our anniversary date of our solar array getting installed in Maryland. Just happened. It was actually the same day I did Powur TV with Cami, and I didn't know. So I had done 9 years ago. We had done our first installation of solar on our home in Maryland. We were the first company. Wow. First homeowner in our community, rather, and to do this. So what I ended up doing was I actually ended up helping write the HOA docs for it, because nobody else had done it yet. And so we did a power purchase agreement for like 7 cents a kilowatt hour. I still have the agreement. It's like so low for a PPA, but you know, that just kind of catapulted what I was doing. In terms of, like, people just came to me and said, hey, that's interesting. Can you tell me more about it? And I made a decision. I said, either I can just ignore the questions or I can get smart on this. I decided to get smart on this. So I like to say I've been in solar for 8 years, because it took me a year to really get my bearings with solar and just kind of become a little bit more knowledgeable. And so I've been, active within the industry for that period of time. I also have a 17-year IT background too. So I really like technology. And this, solar has always been kind of that, it was always a hobby for me, and just helping people grow sustainably. And honestly, I always loved knowing that anytime I walk away from, helping somebody go solar, I've actually infused cash flow into them, right? Into their families, into their household, versus sucking it away. It was one of the only things I could do that I always felt like I could actually do that action instead of like taking money. And so that to me was just very, very value. And so, I started doing that. And then about 5 years ago, I decided to kind of jump into my own brand, because I'd always like side with one company or another. And it's like, hey, if you wear Powur, top to bottom, hey, that's awesome. Know your brand, right? Be in the brand. You do not want to be in incognito mode. You do not, that's the worst thing you can do if you're jumping into solar. Okay. And so you want people to know you're in solar. And so what I did was I was like, you know what? I need to be able to refer my clients around and help meet their needs, whether that's company A or B. So I decided to kind of go all in on my own brand. You see it, I always wear my brand, and it's because that was very, very important to me to say, okay, I'm your trusted advisor. I'm going to go ahead and take what you've told me, and I'm going to go ahead and find a solution for you, because that's all I was doing anyway. Whether that was going to one company or other, it didn't. My clients were buying me before they were buying the company, and that's still true today. But you know what's so powerful about Powur is that there's so much clout that's behind Powur in terms of being the fastest growing company, right, on the solar industry, having number 61 on the Inc. 5000 list. The things that you can just list off for when you're talking to somebody about solar, about Powur, just gives you that ability to say, okay, he's pointing, he or she's pointing me in the right direction, right? And that's something that I say. It's like, you know what, if that company has like almost no experience, it's very, very hard to recommend somebody. And I always tell my clients, I don't recommend you to somebody that's been around for less than 5 years. And the reason for that is they've gotten their bearings and they're growing, and they're going to be around for a bit, right? And so that to me was it's very, very important for me to make sure that I'm expanding, and I'm essentially helping my client base refer to the right people. So, that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years. And I just ran across Powur on a fluke and just jumped on a call. And then it's just been a whirlwind since. And some of the key things I really want to say about it is that especially if you're like new, or you guys, we've got everybody that's experienced to brand new probably on this call, is if you are new, like I said, don't be in incognito mode. Do not be like, well, I'm just kind of jumping in a little bit. Maybe I'm adding it to what I do. That's great. If you're a real estate agent and you're adding solar to what you do, broadcast that and say, hey, like, it's not replacing what I'm doing. I'm still your real estate agent, but I've added a solar vertical because my clients are asking about it. And I wanted to just help you know more about it, right? Like, so being that trusted advisor to your client, even if you're handing that client off to somebody else, like a pro like me, that helps establish something to them. It's because you're providing value, right? That's really what it's about. You're providing value to your client. And so even if solar is just a vertical that you're adding, you're not trying to replace primary income, that's fine. This is diversification, right? This is an easy way to diversify. And so that's something that you just need to make sure that you're talking with your clients and saying, hey, like, yeah, I'm actually diving into solar. I've got a great partnership with some companies, whatever. If you're a solar pro that's just making the leap from another company, like, yeah, of course, you're going all in, and you want people to know you're all in, because you need to reach out to your prior customers. And so a lot of people ask, how the heck did I go really, really fast? Well, there was a slow progression in the beginning. I told you how long I've kind of been in the industry, but once you've kind of touched a certain number of people, sometimes that dries up, right? So it's like everybody knew that I was kind of in solar already. Everybody kind of knew that. What I needed to do was I needed to incentivize my existing clients that were coming in and my partners and say, hey, give me some names, refer me, like something I could do. And Powur's ambassador program was a huge help, because if I was making $500 outside, what was I going to do? Give them $100? Like, come on, right? Nobody's going to bring up your name for $100, but somebody will bring up your name for $1,000, right? And so leveraging your relationships that you have with people that are out, that know that you're in the industry, say, hey, I got $1,000 referral program, mention my name. Like that will give you a ton of leads and business. And one of the things that you can do with that is just, make it kind of a competition, right? Like, hey, you're my VIP, ambassador, right? Just, I don't know, some little bonus or something. I don't know, just make them feel very, very special, right? And so that's at the beginning of January, when we did the whole contest for the impact journey. That's something that I did with my ambassadors, saying, hey, you know what? Whoever gives me the most leads, I'm going to give a bonus, right? Like I just kind of made it a competition, and only a fraction of my ambassadors actually ever took that to heart, but it continued to drive additional business for me. And so as I got a new customer and I signed a new contract, they were already referring me, but I only ever offered that bonus to my existings. So it was just kind of like a snowball effect. And that's something that's very easy for you to leverage, is that ambassador program. And I hope Powur actually does a drip system on the ambassadors. It would be so amazing. Our new clients, just making sure they're always signed up as ambassadors and saying, hey, refer. If you refer through your consultant, remember, you get $1,000, right? And just kind of, if we could just have that, it's like a snowball effect for automation. That would be amazing, versus me doing a touch saying, hey, do you have another, referral for me? But that's something that's really important. Sometimes you don't come to the top of mind. You need to make sure that you do come to top of mind. So you will have to go and talk to your ambassadors and say, hey, I want to go ahead and, I need to make sure that you're giving me referrals. A lot of people want to know, like, okay, so like, do I have to build a big team or anything like that? No, I didn't. I actually had 0 people in the first 6 months. I had mostly ambassadors. And just in the last month, I signed on 2 people. Okay. So you can build Powur whatever way you really want to. And that's something that I really liked, was I didn't necessarily have to put in a team unless I wanted to. But then I thought about it, I was like, you know what, who my team was? My team was like 40 ambassadors. Okay. I got really good at the ambassador program. And, some of those ambassadors, I'm like, hey, would you like to go ahead and elevate to the next level? And so they're starting to roll through. I have my first enterprise registration in the state of Maryland, and trying to open that up and talking to a roofer and things like that. So now I'm starting to like expand. I'm like, all right, I'm in that mode, right, where I'm doing deals and I'm closing them and I'm helping customers. But now I'm like, okay, now I'm helping everybody else's teams as a mentor, right? And I kind of want to do my own too at the same time. And so I see the value in that too. So it's kind of evolved, but everybody's like, okay, what did you have to do? It's like, just be loud. Like, just let people know that you're in solar, and the wave will come. And here's what really happens is, you're like, everybody expects it to go boom, that's not it. You start putting in the work, and it starts to snowball and starts to actually head up. And you have that critical acceleration point where it won't slow down even if you want it to. And so you'll see, like, all right, I'm going to start to get some M1s. I'm starting to get some M. Oh, there's an install. Cool. All right, cool. There's my M2. Like, you're starting to get those. And as soon as you start rolling with them, it starts a catapult effect, where it's like every single week you're going to have a site survey, you're going to have an install, you're going to have a new contract signing, you're going to get a bill. That type of stuff will actually happen. So the key takeaway here is really, don't be in stealth mode. One of the other things that I would really say is, if you're wanting to kind of get on the side of your client, like, just have them take you seriously. Something that's really easy to do, I'm going to be honest with you, is nix that Yahoo email or that Gmail email. Go ahead and just get a domain. It's very easy to do. It'll cost you $12. Like, seriously, get a domain. It costs you $12. You can add email to it. Anthony will tell you, I helped him set up his. It's like, it's very easy to do, because what that does is that also establishes you as being a professional to your client. And that's not a hard rule. There are high income earners in companies that still have their Gmails. It's not a hard rule. To me, though, it's like, I always like seeing a domain saying, okay, so you're actually organized. If you have a domain, to me, it also says, okay, I'm organized. I'm taking this seriously. It's very easy to do. Just go out, you can Google how to do it. Okay. And you can add an email onto that. And so that's something that was very important to me, was my brand. And because now I've got multiple aliases, when people are like, okay, well, how do I send you my bill? I'm not just giving them a Gmail address. I'm giving them my bill at shawenergyconsulting.com. You see how that's a little bit different? They're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and get that bill to you. You're like, you're serious, right? So that's something that's very easy for you to do, especially if you're struggling with it, is just switch it up, change it to a domain, just be your brand. because what's going to happen is they're going to buy you before they buy Powur, or vice versa, right? They're going to not buy you, therefore they won't buy from Powur, right? The brand of you is so important there. And that's something that I do want to say is just make sure that you've got that brand, you've got that recognition, that you're not in incognito mode, because that will actually really, really help you. Something else that is really was just kind of pivotal for me is just, you know what, just post everything, right? Like I said, being loud, just if you got a contract signing, post it. If you got a new design, whether that design is going to contract or not, post it. And the reason for that is it constantly generates feed so not everybody's going to see the same thing in your feed, okay? So you have different touch points, potentially 8 different touch points of just from a project perspective that you can post about. So whether it's designing for a new homeowner, or I just help them go solar, right? Or another neighbor, expanding for another neighbor, or the contract or permits are in, or whatever it is, install time, whatever that notification email is, it's very easy for you to post that and be excited about it. And then when install happens, make it an event, right? Just make sure it's like, hey, I got my first install it and check this out. Or you don't want to necessarily say your first install, but like, hey, another homeowner just got their install in, right? You just want to make that a celebratory event. And what that does is, within all that stuff that you've done on the front end for one project, by the way, you've had multiple touch points within your own sphere and your influence. That's really what that is. And people are like, oh, they're in solar. Oh, that's really neat. And here's the thing, like I said, if you're like a real estate agent or something that's like, all right, I'm adding solar to what I'm doing, make it tag the mentor that helps you with the deal or something like that. Like, we just helped, this person go solar. Thanks so much for, Anthony, for helping me, making this a reality, whatever. So that way they know that you're working with a group that's actually able to get the work done, that are professionals. And it just helps build that rapport just within your base. So even if solar isn't your primary thing, there's no reason not to be able to post about it, because then you're posting about your houses and your listings, or if you have a home improvement business, things like that. Like, the idea is really just to make sure that you have these touch points, because those touch points are free. You're not paying for those, right? And so that's just something very, very easy that you can do. And really, it becomes a numbers game, right? The more that you throw in there, like, you're not going to close every deal, okay? Nobody closes. If you can figure out how to close every deal, please call me. Like, please, that's just what's going to happen, right? You're going to close a deal and they're going to fail credit. Things are just going to happen, right? And the idea is it's just a numbers game. I mean, if you're doing 1 out of 3, that's really good. You have a 1 out of 3 batting average. That's not a bad, you're not going to have a bad day. Okay. If you're doing that, just know that you're going to have people that will ghost you. Okay. It's not you, it's them. It's like, and honestly, can I be honest with you? A no I can take, because I get the opportunity to potentially turn that into a yes. If somebody actually goes ahead and ghosts me, I can't find them. Like, what happened? Did you not, are you healthy? Like, I actually get genuinely concerned. Like, did this is something I said? Did I not shower? Like, what was it? Right? That type of thing. And so you just kind of have to get a little bit of a thick skin when it comes to this as well, because you're going to get your no's, you're going to get ghosted, and then you're going to have your wins, but it's going to make your wins feel really, really good. If you're winning all the time, you're like, hey, I won another one, right? But behind that win, how many people actually said no, right? Or how many people ghosted you? And that's what makes it so much, it feels so much better, because you are actually know that you helped this person. So it is a numbers game. So the more when in doubt, grab a bill. And let me reach into that. Keep this simple. Just grab a bill, get as much information on the homeowner as possible, right? And of the actual property. And so if you're working with a mentor, one of the things you can really do to help us, and I'm just going to throw this out there, is use the ticketing system on the back end. Get the bill, keep it simple. Say, all right, this is how I know this person. This is a warm lead. This is an ambassador referral. Throw in all the details as possible under the site info as much as you can. And if you don't know something, make it blank, right? But then go to the ticket and say, hey, I tagged you, I'm so-and-so, or I was referred to you from one of the, it was like from, let's say, from like Javier's team, or, whatever that was, right? And say, hey, this is how I know this person. This is what they're looking for. This is the timeline I believe that they're going to want to go solar, right? And this helps a mentor actually help drive a deal for you, because now we have all this other information right on the front end. And I've set up things where I'm like, hey, let's go ahead and do a discovery call. If I did a discovery call with everybody, that does start to, that starts to occupy a lot of time too. So even just something as simple as the ticketing system, I immediately know like, hey, okay, I know who kind of this is a hot lead, right? And how I can actually help you drive this to success. So that's something that you can do very easily to help yourself, is just stay organized and keep it simple. Grab the bill, grab as much information as you can from that person, from the homeowner. And when you put it in the lead and you tag a mentor, right, just make sure that you have those notes. If you're a solar, if you've gone pro, right, and like you're doing deals by yourself, and many of the pros already know this, staying organized is paramount, especially as you start going with dozens and dozens of leads at a time. And so using a third-party CRM tool is actually really easy. It's very easy to do. There's a couple free ones. My favorite is HubSpot. I don't get paid to say that, but I like them because it's a very easy and free CRM tool. And I'm not saying don't use Powur's backend. No, that's not what I'm saying. You're going to have a lead that comes in that has a whole bunch of other information to it, that maybe it's your personal lead that you're like, all right, this is other information that I can't put in Powur. I'm going to put it there, but I just put it into my CRM tool. I say, all right, who was the person that referred me? Because sometimes I get leads that come in that are not, most of my leads that come in do not come through the ambassador portals. Even though they're coming from an ambassador, it's like, so-and-so handed me your number, right? It's one of those things. And so in order for me to remember that before I've ever closed the deal with them, I need to make sure I log that somewhere. And I say, okay, we've talked about this. This is what they're looking at. They're putting in a pool. They're getting an EV. Those types of little details are really, really helpful. And so putting together a organizational structure for yourself is going to be helpful, especially when you only have a couple leads now. You're going to thank yourself when you have dozens of leads. And you're like, oh, shoot, I haven't touched base with that person in 3 weeks. Let me go ahead and go back and cycle back with them. You're not going to necessarily remember that they existed, because you're actually rolling with what's actually closing and who's kind of the next person that came to you. So having a CRM tool is really going to really help you there. Okay, so that's free, and HubSpot actually ties into Gmail. So whether you're just using your Gmail address or you actually grabbed a domain, maybe with the Gmail backing, that I send, every single email I send is tied to a contact and a deal. And so I know exactly, so I can actually go into my CRM tool and see the last time I touched base with them, when I expect that one to close, like, okay, touch base with me in 3 months. Okay, let me go ahead and move that out 3 months. I have all these little details that are in that CRM tool that I may not be able to put into Powur's backend. Okay, and I think as Powur's backend evolves, we're going to be able to put more in there. But there's certain things that you're not going to put in there, right? Maybe even just the Redfin or Zillow listing for the home, like when it actually closed, and finding details, which actually is really, really an easy way to figure out details of a house, is just put in their address, go to Zillow and go to Redfin, go to realtor.com, whatever it is, right? And look at when the house was built, right? Does it look like it has concrete tile, okay, or standard asphalt composite? What does it look like? Is it all electric? Does it have a central, central heating system? Those are the details that you're going to have ahead of even ever meeting with somebody. And that actually helps you identify potentially good ones versus bad ones, because every now and again you will get something comes in, you're like, that's not going to really work. And you have to be able to say that. So you know what, we could try, but honestly, it's just not going to be a good fit. And that's okay to actually say, like, you know what, hey, you're not a good fit for solar. Can you give me a referral? Though I'm being honest with you. Maybe in a few years when the technology changes, you will be. So that's just something that you can do. Yeah, so staying organized is huge, right? Just stay organized. It's very easy to do. And just between having that, maybe even have that domain, have your CRM tool, whatever your process is, just make sure you have your process. One of the things that I do, especially with following up with clients, because they don't always close right away, right? Sometimes you have those sit-in signs. I love those too, right? And I'm also a little nervous about them too. Like, what if they change their mind within 24 hours? But the ones that actually might take a week or 2 or 3 months or whatever, right? You want to make sure that you have a process in place for saving time. And so one of the things I do is I have a preset email summary, and HubSpot has a clip thing that I could use, and I forget what it's called, but it's like instead of copy and pasting all the time, I can insert little things, but I still don't do that because I'm always modifying it slightly. What I do is I just have a preset summary email that is the same every single time. And so that's just saved in drafts, and I can go ahead and copy that and paste it and then modify key items like how many panels they're getting, what their kilowatt hour production is, what the loan terms are, just little tidbits of info there, like, oh, this is only a cash deal. I don't need all the loan stuff, right? But what that does is that helps save me time every single time I'm sending out an email, because now I have something that I know I've hit on the same thing all the time. Okay, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, it's not the same every single time. I'm always customizing it on the front end, saying, hey, thank you so much for your time today. But what that does for me is it gives them a good summary of what we talked about, because I don't care what anybody says. They don't remember anything. Like, they only remember half of what you told them, maybe not even that much. All they know is, all they're really focused on potentially is either payment or the cost, right? That's really what it comes down to, like, or what is that really going to save me? And you'll every now and again get a client that's really in the weeds on stuff, and they want to know the panels, they want to know the inverters, they want to know all that stuff because they've already done 16 different quotes and they've been looking at solar for 6 years, and you're like, okay, am I your last stop? But having that information in there is actually really helpful, because then you can go back and say, okay, what did we actually talk about? So let's say it takes them a while to think about it. You've gone and moved on to some other clients that you're working with, and then you cycle back, you're like, all right, what did I actually send them? And so having like a summary email with attachments of the PDF of the proposal, I always do the PDF of the proposal because, solo can change, things can change, what the pricing can change. We saw that in California when they did an update, they reset all our proposals. That was fun. And so, you need to have that PDF in there, because then that makes it easy for you to reference specifically what you talked about to the client, right? And so that is easy. And because as you do more and more, they're going to start to blur together. They just do. And like, you're like, you want to be on top of every single one, but you're like, all right, what did they get? Or what did we talk about? And so it's very important to, like, oh shoot, I gave them the IQ7s. Well, they're not available anymore. And then we go ahead and send a touch point saying this client is kind of taking their time. IQ7s not available anymore. It's got to be IQ8s, right? So follow up with the prospect and say, hey, good news. We've rolled out, the IQ7s are gone. IQ8s, free upgrade. Here you go. And so, or something like that, or just say upgrade. And so that way they are like, oh, okay, like things have transitioned. I'm getting a good deal with this. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the stuff I do to kind of keep myself organized. Let me see something else. I got some notes here, but
Can you repeat, Jordan, the name of what was the name of the free one that you like, the CRM?
It's HubSpot.
HubSpot. Okay.
HubSpot, orange little logo. So one of the things that you can do is really just to kind of stay involved after contract signing. Don't disappear. If you notice, some of the wins I've gotten have been that either a consultant, not necessarily for Powur, but for another company, have never followed up with their client. And so they just had a prospect, they emailed the lead, and that was it. They didn't really follow up. And so following up is number one key to success, right? Especially if you don't get a sit and sign. Following up, sometimes you got to go 4, 5, 6 follow-ups before they actually sign. And you feel like you might be annoying them, but if you're doing it like 1 week, 2 week, or 3 week intervals, you're not really. You're just going, hey, any other questions on what I sent you? Are you guys ready to get this started? Ask for the sale. Just like your last line in your email should be asking for the sale and saying thank you, like saying, hey, are you ready to get this started? Book a time on my calendar, right? Those types of things can really drive additional success for you versus, just like, kind of like all right, well, we did a proposal. Let me just sit and wait. Well, sometimes you got to force people. Sometimes you got to kind of not force them, but push them to the finish line, right? And so following up is key. But after the follow-up and you get the contract, don't disappear. You want to be involved, sending them text messages and saying, hey, we just hit, thanks so much for your time yesterday. Next bit, we're going to be scheduling the site survey if you didn't do a BSS, right? Look for some more communication from a project manager in the near future. I'm going to see, and that's something that I sell is like, hey, I'm going to see every single email that flies between you and Powur. I have complete visibility of the project. I don't disappear after this moment. Okay, you can reach me. That's something that helps drive. Like if they're thinking about spending tens of thousands of dollars with you, or maybe even six figures, depending on how big the actual deal is, that's something that's important to them. They want to know that you're actually going to be there. So don't just sign them and then disappear. Make sure that you're doing follow-up, especially with like, hey, when the system design comes back, hey, we got the system designs in. Great. Hey, this looks good. Take a look at the system design. Send an email, like respond to everybody on the email after the PM sends it and say, hey, this looks good to me. Give it a thumbs up. We'll get it over to permitting. Boom, send. Something like that. And then shoot them a little email, a little text and say if they happen to respond better on text. Like I've got people that respond to me on Facebook Messenger more than they will respond to me on text or email. Like they just come back. Whatever that media is that they will respond to you, make sure that they're seeing that communication. They're seeing that you're actively involved, because that actually helps drive them forward, and it'll reduce any types of cancellations or anything like that with that. And then what that does also is really gives you the ability to have them say, hey, this person was there for me, right? This consultant was there for me through the entire process. And if you make them feel comfortable right on the front end, they're handing out your name before they've ever even had their site survey. This happens to me all the time, saying, let me go ahead and I'm going to send you my sister's contact info, or have my parents, I'm going to send you my parents' bill because they've been looking at solar too. You want that. You want those referrals. You don't not have to wait until install to get referrals. You can get referrals right during every single every single milestone in your project, even before a site survey. So I let them kind of give me a referral out of the gate. I make sure that I'm not usually asking for a referral after I close them. I'm like, congratulations, we're good. I don't do that. What I do though is on the summary email that I send, especially whether it was a sit and sign or just, they took a little bit, my summary email has my $1,000 referral program on it in big, bold green. It's like, it's there, right? And so they should know that I have a referral program, because they're going to they'll want to hand out my info, but I'm indirectly asking for a referral when I do that. And because they're like, oh, okay, I can pay for my system if I hand out his name enough times, right? Or if I hand out his name a couple of times a year, I can actually get my system paid for all my payments. And so that's something that's very easy to do. You don't want to necessarily ask for it right away, but you also don't want to not ask for it, right? You just kind of want to, if you're doing your job right, they're going to hand out your name and they're going to hand you out your contact info. They're going to ping you and say, hey, what's your card? What's your card? Which leads me into something else. Make it very easy for somebody to actually hand out your info. Make it very, very easy. I have a really cool link app. I mean, there's tons of different digital cards. Some people really love the old school physical cards. I still have a stack of those, like a tiny little stack that my wife has just in case a digital card is not going to work in the situation. But I do not carry around a physical card. I have a digital card on my phone. I can get their phone number. I can text them my digital card, and they can download my information directly into their phone. Because 98% of the time, no joke, leads that are coming to me are coming over text or Facebook. Like that's how those things are happening. I'm not physically with them. So if I'm not physically with them, how on earth am I going to hand them a card? Am I going to take a picture of my card and I'm going to text it to them? I hate that, right? No, don't do that. Just get a digital card that either it's a freebie or a paid version of a card, because it'll just pay for itself in spades. You just want to be able to hand that out. I use a card company called Link app. I really, really like it. Link, L-I-N-Q. Yes. So that allows me to create a custom card and dial it in. And I still have a physical card that's QR code and touch. And the customers love that because it's a really heavy metal card. And I'm just like, here, go ahead. You have my info, right? And then I just slide it there. But that card, that link is actually on my email signature. So it says, save my contact info. It's just a little hyperlink. So I say, it's very easy. I still have my cell phone number there, but it has save my contact info. So make it very easy for somebody to hand out your info, because they somehow will lose it. And they will go ahead and come back to you and say, hey, I'm talking to somebody. What's your contact info, right? And if you text them a picture of the card, that's no good. You want to go ahead and actually hand out a link to a digital card that has all the information you want. because you don't want to just hand out a phone number and all of a sudden you're saved in their phone as Jordan Solar, right? You want to have everything in there that's pertinent from your email and your phone number, right? All that information. I even have my license in there for selling in California. Like, I want them to know that I'm legit, right? So doing something like that to make it easy for somebody to hand out your info is really easy. It's just another easy way to get referrals. So I hope you're taking this away, that if you do this right, you will have referrals coming at you from all sides, whether you're busy or not. Because I know sometimes you hit that lull and you're like, okay, I haven't gotten a bill this week or 3 weeks or whatever it is. Like, am I doing something wrong? Maybe not. Maybe it's just a lull, right? But you want to make sure that you have, it's easy for you to get those bills, right? And that referrals will actually happen. So you know what? I know I've talked a lot here. Let me just end it with this. Be honest. If you don't know something, don't promise it. Don't say it. Try to avoid that. Try to say, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Like if you know for a fact that the client asks you a question and you actually do know it, right, you can answer it. If they ask you a question, don't try to BS your way through that. Say, you know what, that's a great question. I'm going to go ahead and double check. I'm pretty sure we can, but I don't want to give you bad info. Be honest, follow up. Don't lie to a client. Make sure that this is an educational thing for them, not necessarily a sale. I like to say I'm a concierge energy advisor. I work for you, right? I work for the client. I don't work for a specific solar company. And when I do that and I tell them that, I'm on their side, where they have a little bit more comfort with me. And I say, so my job is make sure you understand what the heck you're buying before you've made the decision to buy it, right? And being that trusted advisor and being knowledgeable and being honest and following through with what you say, because I've won many a deal when other companies have gone back on their word, or reps just said something to sell a deal. Don't do that. Don't make like a side, deal with a client. Just make sure, like, if you're doing an expansion, like I do expansions all the time, something I personally do is I just pay for a solar cleaning. I have a company I trust. I say, you know what? You've probably never had those panels cleaned, have you? No, I gotta clean them. I'm like, yeah, about once a year you should do that. But tell them what type of maintenance they have to do. I go ahead and I just pay like $100 to go get them cleaned, depending on how many panels there are. Okay, for a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 deal, like, come on, right? So it's just something that I can do as a gift. But just be honest and follow up on your word, because people will come back. I don't know if I have let me just open up it for any Q&A. Is that okay? Because I know I've been talking for like half hour. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
If you guys are
going
liking
fast.
all these nuggets that Jordan is sharing with you guys, comment 100 on the chat. I mean, this is valuable stuff. I'm taking a lot of notes here, but yeah, let's open it up for questions. Thank you, Jordan. So anybody that would like to has a question for Jordan, just free to mute yourself or type it in on the chat.
Jordan, this is Les from Arizona. I think some people don't really recognize or understand the importance of what you stated as far as being a consultant, a person that's helping a person to get solar. And what I mean by that is most people who sell solar work for a company. And what you're saying is look, I'm your fiduciary. I'm working for you, Mr. Customer. And based off of our conversation, I'm now placing or finding the right company for your needs. And that's a big difference than a guy that's knocking on doors, which I do a lot. Most of those people are working for a specific company. And when you brand yourself or brand, like I brand Solar for Less, you brand your company, it kind of sets you apart from being a specific company. And so the person really can say, oh, wow, so you work for this company and you're going to place it with Powur. Wow, that means that you really have done the due diligence to determine what company is the best fit for me and my family. So I think that's a critical point. And I love it a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't mean that you can't be like head to toe in Powur branding. Like that is good, because at the end of the day, you can say, hey, I'm actually an independent agent and I work more for you. So if there's some other type of company that's going to be better fit for you, I'm going to tell you. Like, I don't work for this specific company, but I can tell you the reason I like this company is X, Y, and Z. like that, you could say I recommend them a lot, and there's a reason I do that. And it's not necessarily, you know, that's the reason why you walk that line of saying, hey, if I physically drew a paycheck, right, from this company, my best interests are to help that company. But even though Powur is doing it better, we know Powur can do it better. The client feels like you're independent and you're kind of like pointing them in the right direction. And so that's something, especially if you're getting like new leads and things like that, that's really a great way to do it. Right. And it's just like, but if you think about it, like real estate agents, they all operate on like independently, but under different umbrellas. Right. And so it's kind of like the same way when you're with Powur. So, you know, you don't work for the company, but there's a reason why you're with the company. So I always say to my client, I say, hey, you know what? I have my preferred partners. There's a reason why I have my preferred partners. They've treated my customers right. They're fair in their pricing. You know, those types of conversations, like, yeah, I do want to I'm going to go this direction more times than not. But I just had this conversation the other day. Somebody that just wants a battery, right? Powur's not going to do a battery only. So I have a partner as a backup for them. And so that's something that, you know, exactly what you just said is just, it is a key differentiator, because you can get alongside your client and say, I have to put my consultant hat on, you know, and that's what I'm doing. Right. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
So we did have a question on the chat, Jordan, from Giovanni Tamagas. How long did it take you to build that CRM? And is there a tutorial resources you followed to make it?
For the CRM?
Yes.
Oh, it's built out of the box. Like, you just register with an email that you want to register with, and you can tie it in. Probably the hardest part is making sure you get the plugin for your email suite. That's it. So that plugin for the email suite is usually loaded into Chrome, and it ties in, or it ties into, like, so if you're using Gmail, it ties into the Gmail backend. So every now and again, you might have to log back in, like if you relaunch it. But it's kind of built out of the box. So what I've done is I've said, okay, I'll put the client name. I'll do, if I happen to know the system size, or I anticipate what the system size is, I usually put it right next to it, or if they're getting a battery or something like that. And I do -Powur. And what that does for me is, if I do have other clients, because I have other clients that are getting like batteries only and things like that. I have a -Powur, so that way I can search on any of my Powur projects, then I can search on company X or something like that. But what that does is that allows me in a quick view to be able to say, okay, Sally is getting a 12 kilowatt system for me, and I'm using Powur, and I have the contact info. The thing is, when you go ahead and send an email, you can assign it. There's a little search bar there inside your email. There's some tutorials also, but it literally will just tag it to that client, or that opportunity. Right. So every single email I send, it's there. It's all built out of the box. So every single time I send an email, it BCCs HubSpot, and HubSpot looks for that contact, and if it's associated with a specific project. And even if you send an email and it's not associated with a project yet, you can go back and hit edit within your Gmail or whatever you're using, and edit it and say, okay, this is assigned to this project, and check a box off, and then it shows up for that project inside HubSpot's main page. It's all built right out of the box. There is literally, I have an IT background, but I am not a database guy. I do not want to be a database guy. They handled all that. So, and I feel guilty sometimes, because I'm like, I'm still not paying for the full blown version, because they upped the number of seats you need for the sales side. Because I was using it for a little bit for a single seat, but now I got to get like a minimum of 2 seats. And I'm like, I'd pay like $10 a month for that for HubSpot. Like if they said no more free HubSpot, or like after a 60-day trial, it's $10 a month for a single seat. I'm like, gladly, like I would do it, not a problem. So no, there's no, it was built out of the box.
Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, we'll answer a few more questions. You guys don't forget, I'm going to be sharing how to win this Powur hat at the end of the call. We do have a few more questions. Jordan, I know you're very busy. Do you have a few more minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Reggie Valdez, I see you raising your hand. Do you have a question?
Yeah, quick question, Jordan. I know you do a lot of the expansion, where you're adding another system to customers' houses. At the end of the deal, when we go to PTO, what do you do or how do you handle that?
For the expansion of the PTO?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do we have to do a whole new PTO or do you just leave it? And because I've heard people mention it different ways and I'm just curious how you handle that.
yeah, so actually I would probably throw you to a video that I did, a training I did with Jonathan Bernasso on his channel. I can include that, or if Anthony, if you've got that handy, maybe you drop it in the chat. The video is basically talks about literally just all expansions and the training on that. From a PTO, just to answer your question, all the lenders require a PTO. So if they're going cash, we may just be able to forego PTO. But to me, I'm kind of like I like to keep everything on the level, right? Where that really comes in is if you've got a client that's moving from one net energy metering policy to another, that they're like, okay, well, I was on domestic for my entire, NEM 1.0 for my entire other system. And if I add on another system, it'll move it to time of use. While that potentially can have a negative effect, if the system's built right, they're going to save a ton more money than whatever the D value is on the existing system. So you kind of have to weigh that. If you've got a client that's like, well, I'm trying to outrun a $600 to $800 a year bill, and it's going to take like a giant array to NEM 2.0, you probably might want to have a different conversation with them and say, oh, why don't you just become an ambassador? I'll just help you pay for that, that true up bill every year. It doesn't make sense for you to do that. So I always say, if you're spending $1,000 plus, let's talk, because then you can start putting that money back in yourself. You're just spending hundreds of dollars a year. It's probably not going to be worth it unless all of a sudden they're running out and getting an electric car, or they're putting a pool in. If we're going to NEM 2.0 to NEM 2.0, different story, right? It's like, okay, I can quantify that, but I try to say if it's at least 4 digits, let's go ahead and talk. If it's under that, it's kind of like you're just trying to get rid of a pesky bill. I'll show you what the numbers look like, but it may take a while to get that money back. So there's anything specific we have to do PTO, but you have to get PTO, at least with the lender perspective. But I would encourage you to go to the actual expansion training for that, because we covered all of that.
And I added the link to that YouTube video that you and Jonathan Bernasso did on the expansion solar. So if you guys want to look at that video, it's on the chat. We do have a few more questions, Jordan, but before we answer those, I know you've been a successful consultant with Powur and a mentor. Is there any steps you want new mentees to take if they're going to assign you as a mentor? Is there a system in place?
Yeah, so one of the things I would say is just, and this is just what would help probably everybody, is if we're going to get assigned, a project, first of all, we're going to go and look at it and go, who's that? Maybe. But two, we're going to also be like, all right, I got it assigned, but I need to know more information. Fill out as much information. If you're brand new, like I know that it might, this might be like one of your first times doing it, and that's okay. But there's a whole part of the onboarding gives you some of the training too to do this. Make sure like the site info is as complete as you possibly can get it. If you don't know how to analyze the actual bill, that's easy for us to do. Just make sure that you've got a full, clean copy of the bill. I want to see first page. I want to see the graph. I have to be able to see the meter number, right? So if you're in doubt, depending on which utility you're in, just include all pages. And if you're like, well, we had to take separate pictures of all the pages, throw them all under assets. Try to label them if you can, not just image and numbers, right? Just go ahead and try to label them, saying this is the graph, this is page 4, this is page 5, whatever it is of the utility bill. Go to assets and upload all those things. And I say this because if you do have multiple pages that are images that are not a PDF, if you go to try to upload them to the site info under utility bill, it overrides it every time, right? So throwing them under assets is clean, easy. If there's anything specific on the project, like a little picture, you're like, hey, well, this is where we think the client actually wants it. That's actually really helpful. Like you can have a little diagram.
Oh, you're on mute, Jordan. You just went on mute just right now.
How did I go on mute? That's weird. Okay. So if you want to, under history of the ticket, make sure that you have, you actually have like the historical information on that client. Like, hey, how do you know them? Are they looking to go and sold pretty soon? Just like little tidbits of info. Like you can put that stuff in the proposal. section, but that proposal section is actually more so for Solo than us, if I can be honest. Like those are types of information, like don't put like an essay in there, go ahead and put that information under a ticket. Because what happens is, and once you do that ticket, it gets assigned to me, and I actually get an email with that information, what that project is. And so when we're going back and forth, it gets really hard to go back and forth on text, but it gets very easy for me to go back and forth in an email, like not an email, but in a ticket, because it lists the project ID. So that's something that very, as especially the mentors get more and more deals, we need to be able to keep track of exactly what we're talking about. And so it's like, oh, Joe, needs us. I'm like, Joe, who? Like, we're going to need more information because we're handling our own leads. We're trying to handle yours at the same time, just trying to be helpful, because we want to help. We want to close deals. We want to help you, right? That's something that would make it makes it very much easier for me personally, is just using the ticketing system, complete the site info as much as you can. And if you have to have multiple pictures of a bill, just upload them all to assets and say, it's under assets, upload one picture of the bill, right? And then just basically say all other bills are under assets, just part of the information you give me. Yeah, that would be helpful.
Awesome, Jordan. So we're top of the hour. We do have 3 more questions on the chat, and then we could finish off with Felipe Moreno's question at the end. And then we'll go ahead and share how to win that Powur hat. The next question I see on the chat is from Michelle Brunetti. Is it important for consultants to push their project managers? I have an IT background, and our PMs took it from start to finish and were very prompt.
To push them?
Yeah, is it important for consultants to push the project managers? Michelle, would you like to unmute yourself and clarify a little bit more? There you go.
Yeah, thank you. I just was on a call. I think I'm not a call, but like a Zoom. I remember in them saying, make sure you're just keeping on top of your PMs because they're super busy and they have a lot of projects. For instance, I had one where the design was approved, and then it said moving forward to utility approval and permitting, like in the milestones. And so I was like, oh, cool, it's moving forward to that. But then it was like 14 days later, and I was like, oh, I don't see anything. So I put in I put a ticket in, and I said, has this gone to utilities and permitting? And my project manager said, it's in the queue. Is 14 days? I mean, I don't know, like, should I have asked her sooner than 14 days if it went to permitting and utilities? Or is that just their job to?
Yeah, so, okay, so what I do is, if the site design's been completed, if I don't see movement in 3 to 5 days, I'll drop a little note and say, hey, have we moved this to permitting already? Or any ETA on permitting, or say moving this to permitting, because you should pretty much see it move to permitting within the week. And a lot of times, I think about this, depending if Powur's handling it in-house or the installer's handling it, is 2 different things, because they might have a stack that they have to put into permitting, and you just happen to be in the stack. Doesn't mean that it isn't on its way to permitting, but it's one of those things where you have to remember that you're one of potentially dozens for somebody to actually input to the permitting office within that week. And so I always try to give a little bit of grace with that, saying, okay, well, we should be able to get permitting, within the week. We'll get it off to permitting usually. If it's been like a week and you haven't seen it hit permitting, yeah, go ahead and just follow up. But, remember that a PM might be handling a bunch of different projects. And so I try to limit the amount of tickets that I put in. I'm usually very clean, concise, so they can look at a ticket and they know exactly what I need from them. So it's not scolding or anything like that. It's easy because they're making our lives easier. They're the reason the project goes from A to B or A to Z or whatever, right? And so that's perfectly fine. I have a good relationship with the PMs that I know. They can call me, they know they can, and what I do is I get out there and I make sure certain things are done. I say, hey, let me know if you need for me to try to track anything down. I always offer that, saying do you need anything from me? And so if they're like, nope, not at this time, or yeah, if you could go ahead and ask them to try to pull up their old lease agreement or something like that, whatever that might be, I try to make sure that I'm helpful on the other side of that relationship as well. So I wouldn't like go like the day after, but I would say, hey, like I have projects that's been sitting in permitting forever in Winchester. And this morning I just pinged them again, and I looked at the milestone notes. I'm like, all right, review approved. Does that mean we've actually got approval on the permit? Like because my client's been sitting there for 3 months, kind of wondering why it's taking so long, because we've been over 60 days in the permitting office alone. And they know it's not us, it's the permitting office, and they're okay with that. But I have to always make sure to say, Mr. Client, I'm taking care of, I'm taking care of this. I'm trying to keep on top of it, but I also can't, you can only push so much, right? So I would say, yeah, stay on top of, but in a nice way, and don't throw a ton of tickets in, because remember, you're one consultant, they're dealing with multiple projects. If you put 5 tickets in, you multiply that across everybody, all of a sudden you're like, why does it take so long for them to get back to me? Because they had just had 48 tickets to go through, So that's the way I look at it.
Jordan, so I'm gonna have to actually end the call very soon, because we're on JC Rangel's Zoom, and he does have a meeting at 11.
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry.
Felipe Moreno, Laura Magallanes, Ramsey Clark, we'll make sure you get Jordan's contact number so he could help answer that question. I want to be respectful of JC's time too, since he has a meeting with the client right now. Before we do this real quick, I'm gonna share with you how to win that hat. Let me share my screen real quick. We're gonna do some affirmations that we have here for our team that we've been doing on every call. So just feel free after this, I'll share with you the details how to win this hat. Just make sure, if you could, let's say them out loud. If you're at work, obviously you can't, but we're gonna go one by one and just say them out loud, repeat after me. All right, so first one is, I am a powerful solar professional.
I am a power solar
professional.
You guys can unmute yourself, that'll be great. I do business morally and ethically.
I do
I do
business.
business morally and ethically.
I am successful, intelligent, and confident.
I am successful, intelligent, and confident.
I do not depend on luck or unrealistic possibilities.
I
I do not depend on luck or unrealistic opportunities.
I am making a positive impact in the world and in the lives of others.
I am making a positive impact in the world and in the lives of others.
I radiate with confidence, and people feel that.
I radiate confidence and people feel that.
I am building a renewable energy empire.
I am building a renewable energy empire.
Therefore, money comes easily and frequently and in increasing quantities.
Therefore, money comes easily and frequently in increasing quantities.
So feel free to take a screenshot of this, take a picture. Solar Heroes affirmations. Thank you, JC Rangel, for letting us host today's training call. Thank you, Jordan Shaw, for all the valuable information. Isela, thank you for helping me host it. We really appreciate it. Now, how could you win this hat? You got to follow me on Instagram at Anthony Bonilla _solar. The first person to send me a screenshot picture that they already bought their ticket to convention at Dallas, July 15 and 16, right? If you already bought your ticket to the Dallas convention, send me a screenshot, not to my number, send it to my Instagram, right? And then first one to do that, you'll win this hat. I'll ship it to you, right? So again, first one to text me, message me on Instagram, screenshot picture that you already bought your Dallas convention ticket. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much again for being on here. Thank you for all the valuable information, Jordan Shaw. We appreciate it. And you guys have a good rest of your day. Go out there, go help more families go solar. Let's go get it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Have a great
guys.
day.
Thank you.
And please log off because
I will.
JC will stay on. No, JC will stay on.
Oh.